stand for prayer.
Thank you, O Lord, for this day that you have allowed us to come together as a county business. We ask, dear God, that you please be with us and have a decision maker. Blessing we ask in your name. We pray. We say amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Consideration for June's minutes. Motion.
I move the June minutes be approved.
Second.
It's moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Motion to open public hearing.
So move.
Second.
Moving properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
James Clay. Right here.
Let me go out, look in the hall. No response, Mr. Chairman.
Peavy, Freeney. Okay. Motion to table, James Clay.
So move.
All in favor? Motion properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it, so it is.
Good morning. I'm Don McGraw, and I'm representing Kelly Peavy, Matthew Freeney, and Dylan Walker, who are attempting to rezone property that they bought last year from, part of it anyway, from C2 to A1. They bought 275 acres, and they're subdividing it into 6 big lots ranging from 17 or 18 acres up to 109 acres. In the northeast corner of the property, which is located about where Radley Ferry Road and the Natchez Trace intersect out in section 26, 9 North, 4 East. Somewhere along the way, about 24 acres got zoned commercial, so there's not any commercial within miles of there other than across the interstate there back on the Pearl River. There's a Radley Ferry trading post that's commercial, so it's all, everything around it's agricultural pretty much. So they're seeking to have its own agricultural so they can get a plat put together to file to sell those acreage lots.
Any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Is there any opposition?
Any opposition?
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. So it is.
Thank y'all.
Joe B. Hardy.
Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, we appreciate the opportunity to come here this morning and present our request for a change from the designation of our property from agricultural to industrial. And the reasons for that is for the development that's taking place right near our property that affects the future of our place.
Just as a matter of note, as you recall, this was in front of us last month, and you all approved it. Right after the meeting, Scott and I realized that we had not obtained the certified mail receipts, and so we didn't have the proper documentation to make sure that surrounding landowners were notified. That has been done. We do have, those letters have been sent out. I believe we've got some, but not all. We can't control people picking up their stuff from the mailbox, but all the proper procedure has been done now. So as far as I'm aware, there's been no changes since last month's meeting.
Any opposition? I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. So it is. Sarita Graham. I believe this is the same situation.
Yeah, as Ms. Graham is approaching, this is the exact same scenario that we had here. What I said a few minutes ago applies
Ms. Gray.
expressly to this as well.
I entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. So it is.
My
Jenkins.
name is Rita Hardy. Oh, did I interrupt you?
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Graham, we recognize what happened last month. We've
Right.
corrected that, and they've just approved your request.
Okay. Now, I can't hear,
Oh, you good?
It's a
you want me to do it, or just?
No, ma'am.
I'm sorry.
You can
Thank you.
take a seat. Thank you.
Jenkins, chipping and mulching.
Good morning. I'm Timothy Jenkins. I guess I'm a little late coming to the meetings, but I felt like had I come when I was initially put on the schedule, that I was jumping the gun a little bit. I didn't realize that it was going to take almost 4 months to close on this land. When you're dealing with 13 heirs for 19 acres, it takes a little while. So we closed on this 19 acres on Hawkins Thompson Lane this past Thursday. And what our plans are, other than possibly at some point putting a house on it, is I've got a sawmill, but I've got a business that I cut trees for a living. What I'm wanting to do, instead of adding to the landfills or the debris fields, is I want to do like I did for my brother-in-law over on Old Sharon Road, take my sawmill over there, and all the pine trees that he's cut down, I've cut it into lumber for him to build a barn. As y'all know, there's somewhere around 2 million dead pine trees in Madison County. And it seems like every time one comes down, you see 2 more dead ones. What my plans are is to, now that we actually own it, is to move my sawmill there. And as I cut pine trees down, we're starting a little slower than we initially planned. As I cut pine trees down or hardwoods, I want to take them on that property and cut them into boards that's usable instead of having to pay to dump usable material. And I know everybody sitting there, and probably the ones out here, have seen the logs laying on that lot across from the water tower at Nissan. I've talked to Ricky Bolden, who has got the adjoining land. He's in favor of what I'm wanting to do, and I've actually told him, because this is going to be a small enough business, that I've told him to keep his cows on it. You know, I don't want anything from him, because he's been keeping the property up for 20 years. He may as well continue to use it. 3 months ago, when I wanted to start this, I had the financing to buy a mulcher, which is about $500,000. And what it does is, even a 24-inch diameter log, you put it on this machine and it grinds it up into mulch like you'd go to Lowe's and buy a bag of mulch. That's my long-term plans for, probably the next year and a half or so. Right now, initially, my plans are to bring the trees that I cut down onto the property and cut for lumber.
Questions?
I have some questions. This is an outdoor sawmill. And
Yes, ma'am.
How many saws and how much equipment will you have on that land?
Well, I'll have my sawmill, and then I've got an excavator it's just an 8,000-pound excavator, and that'll be to pick the log up and put it on the sawmill. I've got a bucket truck that some of my neighbors in Madison would love for me to quit parking it. Now, keep in mind, I don't live in a subdivision in Madison. We live on 6.5 acres behind Countryside Plantation subdivision. But I'd really rather start keeping my bucket truck somewhere out of a residential area. None of the equipment other than the bucket truck that I have weighs more than 8,000 pounds. One of the problems that I've got after I talked to the Board of Supervisors, I think in May, is they saw fit to put a 5,000-pound weight limit on Hawkins-Thompson Road. So, my question on that is, I got a 3/4 ton pickup truck, and it weighs more than 5,000 pounds. Yesterday, while I was on the road, because we cut a place through the fence and trying to get a culvert put down to where we can actually drive onto our property. There was a garbage truck that came through, and I know it weighs more than 5,000 pounds. There was a UPS truck that came through, and it's bigger than my 3/4 ton truck. And far as I know, there's people on the other end of it that have kids in school, so a school bus can't go down it. And then where the unsightly lot is that's got all the trees piled up, that's zone commercial property. One of the supervisors said something about that road is in poor shape and it needs work. And I agree. The problem with that, though, is that road has needed work. If you talk to Ricky Bolden and some of the other residents on it, it's needed work for 20 years. And I've told some of them, I'm willing to come to the Board of Supervisors meetings and see what can be done to get that road usable. I feel like that if I've got property, even if I were going to do it as a farm, I know a lot of folks that's got farms, that's got their own sawmills that don't want to go to Lowe's or Home Depot or Prassel and buy overpriced lumber when they can cut it themselves for the cost of what the diesel cost and about $40,000 for a sawmill. I want to be a good neighbor to the people that's already out there, but I'm willing to go to supervisors meetings and ask for help on the road, because it isn't the best in the world. I've been down gravel roads that were better. But your initial question about equipment was, I don't have anything that weighs more than 8,000 pounds other than my bucket truck, and it has a tag on it that's roadworthy. Did I answer what you're asking?
I'm more more concerned about the saws and the noise coming from your sawmill?
My sawmill runs a 24-horse Kohler engine. It's just it's a gas engine that's not gonna be any louder than what an agriculture tractor is.
So I'm just gonna ask some questions.
Okay.
So how many boots are on the ground are we talking? How many people would be there?
I've got myself, my son-in-law, and one other full-time person, and then my son is, he'll work 2 days a week, but not necessarily there. And now this won't be something that's done every day.
And this would just be during, say, business hours?
Well, it'll be done in daylight hours.
Okay.
I can't think of a time when we would probably start before 8 o'clock in the morning. And I'm 61. At 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm ready to go to the house. I don't mind having parameters set on me on when that could be run, or my plans are to build like a barn to keep this thing out of the weather. So there would be somewhat of a sound shield, but where I'm wanting to put it is probably 50 yards across the fence to the closest house. Ricky Bolden's house would be the next closest, and my property is 242 yards wide, and then there's 19 acres between us and the house, so he's probably 400 yards from where I'm wanting to put it.
Being that there's a load limit on the road and you have to haul trees, I know you said the bus, the garbage truck, they have special permits to drive those roads.
The dump trailer that I use is a 14,000 pound load limit. And it's a tandem axle. Right now, I know last week there was a 80,000 pound excavator hauled down that road. One of the problems I see with that road is it's just like the road I live on. You got to pull in a ditch for somebody to pass you. And and this is in the municipal city limits of Madison, which is to me uncalled for. If you got a city road, it ought to be to where two vehicles can pass each other on the road. I've talked to Gerald Steen about it. They've acknowledged that something needs to be done to the road. And that's kind of why I'm willing to start slow, but my truck weighs 5,500 pounds. My dump trailer is only 14 feet long. We're not talking about me, because I actually donated my 18-wheeler last year to Germantown High School. I'm not fixing to go buy another 18-wheeler to haul logs or anything else.
Will anyone be bringing logs to you?
Not at this point. Now, if I can find $500,000 laying around somewhere and I'm able to buy this whole tree chipper, then yes, ma'am. Hopefully they will be, because it takes a lot of trees to be ground up to make up $500,000.
I have a question about, and I don't know if it should be Scott or Andy, but it's conditional use, right? But I don't understand why it would be considered conditional and why it wouldn't be industrial.
It kind of is, it doesn't fit neatly anywhere, but it would be more considered like a rubbish pit, which kind of falls under like a mining operation, is not specifically laid out in some things. Well, it is, but we've done this before. I think it was on West County Line Road where they had a rubbish pit.
Right.
And it was a conditional use. That's
So
just
is this, a situation where if we were to move forward and approve it, it would be that we would need to speak to the supervisors about expanding that definition so that when this comes before us in the future, it's easier to discern, but, I mean,
Well, that could be laid out in an update in our ordinance that's more specific in the language. It's just,
And I would kind of like to address that. One of the reasons I'm here today is and I don't quite understand why a tree that you're going to repurpose is considered rubbish, but DEQ considers any tree that's cut off of one property that's carried to another property to repurpose or to bury or anything else is considered solid waste. I don't agree with it, but, you know, initially when I talked to Scott, I was going at it in a different way until I talked to somebody from DEQ, and they said, if that's all you're wanting to do, you need a permit for chipping and mulching, not grinding. It falls under a different parameter for DEQ, but he said you still need a letter approving it for the county to take to DEQ. They don't want to give me a permit to do that if the county has a problem with it. And, you know, one of my main things is I want to keep some of these trees that are usable out of the landfill and out of that rubbish field on the west end of County Line Road that I refuse to use because the road is dang near impassable. That road's terrible out there. It's worse than, well, it's bad. So I need approval from the Board of Supervisors to be able just to try to get a permit. Keep in mind now, my sawmill, I'd love to see it out there next month or later this month. But the bringing in stuff that somebody else is wanting to get rid of, that's not going to happen until, even if y'all approved it, until I can get a machine that is on site before trees are brought in.
Are you planning on selling this lumber, number one, to a are you operating as a wholesaler or
No,
retailer?
ma'am. It'll be put in Market Bulletin or word of mouth. You know, with 19 acres, I want to build something for my sawmill. I want a building that I could put equipment in, because, I mean, I've spent over $100,000 this year on just two pieces of equipment that one of them would fit on top of that desk. And the more I can keep it out of weather, the longer it's going to last. So, you know, probably for the first 2 years, everything I cut will be used by me.
But eventually you want to sell.
Well, but not on, I mean, I don't like the idea of having a business that I don't have control of. So, you know, we're either going to be cutting trees one day, and then, you know, I'd like to see 1 or 2 days a week that I cut lumber. The lumber's not going to be a real money maker for me, other than the fact that it's probably going to, every truckload of lumber that I can cut for myself instead of going to Lowe's. I cut 240 2x6s for my brother-in-law on Old Sharon Road that is building a barn. I charged him $300 for 240 2x6s. If you go to Lowe's today, you're looking at over $3,000. It was trees that he had cut down on his 60 acres, and he said, I hate to burn them.
Any other questions? Opposition?
All right, one more question. Your mulching or your chipping, how will you sell that?
I'm not sure, and right now I'm not in a big hurry, because if you chip a tree, even some of the dead pine trees, if you chip it and mulch it in the intent to have it as compost, you're looking at 4 years. So I would have a pile of mulch there. Now, if somebody wanted to buy it, I'm not going to bag it. If somebody wants to bring a dump trailer like I've got, or have me deliver a load of mulch to them, I'd be happy to do that. But the main part of that would be I'm grinding it and repurposing it instead of putting it in a landfill.
Mr. Jenkins, and to clear up some of this stuff on that other site that's out there, that has gone before the Board of Supervisors to be cleaned up, because they were not operating legally. Now, Mr.
right.
Jenkins, how are you going to dispose of this? Now, we don't want to run into the same situation that that other one did, because it would be in violation too. Do you?
That's
have a-
correct.
do you-
Yeah, you and I have talked about that. Now, there's gonna be a certain amount, limbs and stuff, I'll carry and do what I have to with them to be legal. But a usable log, I'll be stacking them by the sawmill to be used. With only a 4-man operation, it'd take me a long time to even put a dent in what they've got piled up right there, right now. I mean, because they were bringing in chipper trucks and 18-wheelers dumping that stuff. And like I said, I have no desire to get back into 18-wheelers again. So, it'd take me 3 months to fill a room the size of this up with what I've got. But as I get, 10 or 15 logs, then we'll stop and we'll cut them into boards and stack them to be used.
Excuse me, Scott, repeat that, what you just said. I didn't hear you. What did you say about that other site?
Yeah, before
The other site never got approval for what they did, and they were just dumping on it. So I sent them a letter, took it to the Board of Supervisors, and I think they gave them 5 weeks to clean it up. Was that correct?
That's on the commercial side.
Yes.
Right. And
All
with
those trees.
a 5,000-pound payload, it's going to take a lot longer than 5 weeks.
Yeah, I'm afraid we might wind up further on that one.
Okay. So there's no traffic going in right now?
No,
Have they
there's-
ceased operation?
There's already a site over there, a little sawmill running on a commercial piece of property,
Right.
and it's right across the road. Not tied into what all that dumping was, though. I don't believe.
No, he was, the Allens are actually renting that spot of land. Because they actually, after I put a bid in and put earnest money down, they tried for about 6 weeks to buy it out from under me. And was hard-headed and didn't say, well, you know what, it's been too long, I don't want it anymore. I stuck it out.
Now,
So they're
I know
going to
we've had
continue to
some
rent.
problems with some burning in that area, and I don't think we're allowing any
Yeah.
burning right there, so that's another issue.
Now, let me ask you this, because Mr. Bolden asked me this Monday. He said, now, this was all family property, and over the years, we've piled stuff there to where when it was dry and they lifted the burn ban, we'll have a little fire from time to time, but this is stuff that the neighbors have brought, like, I'm talking limbs and stuff, I'm not talking about trees. If you want to address that, what I should do, I mean, can I burn? I'm under the impression if it's stuff, limbs and stuff that's cut on that property, I'm allowed to burn, right?
Well, I think I would go to the county fire coordinator,
Okay.
Minor Norman.
All right, I mean, I want to do what's legal, but I also, realize that we spend a lot of money buying that property, and I'd actually like to be able to use it and improve it.
Any other questions? You hear from opposition?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Rochelle Thompson, and thank you all so much for giving me the opportunity to have some more discussions about this potential mulching site that's going to be on Hawkins-Thompson Lane. So I do have some pictures here for you, just in case you don't know about what's going on the other site and the actual condition of the road. So I have. So also, too, I do like to thank Mr. Jenkins for being so concerned about the road and want to improve it. And we do welcome him coming to the Board of Supervisors meeting at any time to try to help us get that road fixed. You will see in that packet that I gave you, of course, that is the dumping site, that the woodyard dump that has been mentioned this morning. Yes, of course, they did start dumping out there with no permits and no approval. We came to the board at the time before all of that even came out there and reported that. However, that individual went forward with doing that. The road is in deplorable conditions. You are right, two people cannot pass down that road at the same time. And actually, it's not a road. It's called Hawkins-Thompson Lane. Mr. Jenkins said that, he had an issue with buying this property because there was so many heirs. That's because it's family land and it's a residential community. It's not an area where commercial businesses should be. And he said, one thing he said too that was very interesting is that he said he has a bucket truck and he lives on 6 acres out in the rural area, in which this is the same situation of Hawkins-Thompson Lane. And he said his neighbors would like to see that, but he probably would appreciate if he moved that bucket truck. So he want to move it from his neighborhood to my neighborhood. And I don't want to have to see a bucket truck every day either when I drive down the road of my neighborhood. And I know most people don't. It is a residential neighborhood, although the supervisors did many years ago, they did zone a portion of that area commercial. And we see what has happened. I know Mr. Jenkins said he had some short-term plans, and we know that, if he's able to benefit off his short-term plans, those can turn into long-term plans, and it can be very different from what he's talking about today. And so then there was some talk about the different vehicles that's going to be driving down Hawkins-Thompson Lane, the different people that will be working at his area and the comings and goings. And then you are asking them a question, well, are you going to make money off of this? And I know he told several stories, but that's a yes or no question. Yes, you're going to make money off of this mulching, or no, you're not. Even though he went through many stories, I believe the answer to that is probably yes. He's going to make money off of this property. He would not have invested not to get some type of return on a dollar. I'm all for recycling in areas where recycling can be done, where there's not a residential community. People coming and going in and out of that area is going to bring people that doesn't normally travel that road and can bring some undesirables down that road, which could put our lifestyle in jeopardy. On that last picture of that packet that I gave you, that is the garbage that my husband picked up in January off of Hawkins-Thompson Lane from the people that is traveling that road already from that woodyard dump that's out there now. So more traffic is going to bring more litter, more people. 2 cars can't pass down the road, more damage to that road. I can't see where allowing another commercial, rezoning more land commercial is going to benefit the area. You can package it up as nice as you want to about recycling. It's a business. And he planned to make it a business. This morning, I would like to try as much as possible because we got a long road to hoe, and Mr. Weeks probably can tell you, with that wood yard dump that's out there to get that cleaned up. This morning, my plea to the planning and zoning is to keep the area that I live in residential and not allow any more commercial use. Before I take my seat, one more thing he said is Mr. Bolden is all for it. That's the land that's adjoining his. And I'm sure he is, because Mr. Bolden, he take care of cows on that land. If he's gonna let some of his cows stay on his land, of course, he would be all for it. He's getting it's a win-win situation for him, but not a win-win situation for me and the other residents that live in this area. You know, he's going to be cutting these logs, doing daylight hours, that's early. In the summertime, that can be from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. As I said before, Hawkins-Thompson Lane is a residential area. My plea to this committee this morning is to keep it a residential area. Thank you all so much for your time.
Pass that property to get to your house?
Yes, every day. I have to pass that property every day. The other property, you see that first picture on the packet that I gave you all? The people that live across the street from that, that's what they wake up and see every morning. That's what they view right there.
Can you tell me how much construction actually goes on down that road? Or like how many more houses can they build down there? Is that stuff that you typically see, or is it just the houses and the family land that exist, and then this is just going to be an addition to that?
That's going to be an addition to it.
So you don't typically have a lot of construction
No.
vehicles going back and forth?
No.
Okay, so I'm just asking here. So what would this refer to?
That is a truck that other dumping site
Okay,
travels that road.
all right.
We do have UPS, FedEx, of course, they deliver to us, and I think the board has already said that those have permits for special use to deliver packages to us. Of course, we have the school bus to come down because those kids need to be educated just like all others, and the garbage, I'm so thankful for the garbage department being able to come out there and pick up our garbage. So those are things that, you know, any other road in Madison County, those things are traveling down those roads, even in subdivisions and within the municipalities. But on a regular basis, we do not have all of these different type of trucks traveling down our road until this other, that woodyard dump started about 18 months ago.
Thank you.
Any other questions for me?
Ms. Thompson, I'm assuming you would like these
No,
attached to the minutes?
Yes, please, yeah. But, and the copies are for the board, the other copies that I gave out.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Any other opposition?
Can I make one more comment?
You can.
Thank you. I think I may have started, I kind of halfway consider what I'm wanting to do part of an agricultural process. We've got a 40-acre tree farm and just outside of Philadelphia, Mississippi, off of Highway 19. I've got somebody looking at that timber right now to try to sell because it's 42-year-old pine timber. It's regulated by the agriculture department. I'm wanting to take trees that a commercial sawmill will not take because some of these trees are dead. And I understand her concerns, but I've also got some tractors with discs and plows and everything else. And now, as far as I know, Mr. Bolden doesn't have 30 cows on his property and rented property, which I told him I don't want a dime from him. He's done a good job. The place looks good. It's clean. I'm sure that when he sells his cows, that would be considered a commercial commodity. Well, it is a commodity. If I decide I want to drive a 120-horse tractor down that road to get to my property to disc it up and plant corn, it's agriculture. But once it's harvested, it's not agriculture, it's a commodity, and you sell commodity for a business. I'd be an idiot to think that y'all wouldn't think that I want to do this to make money. I don't work for a hobby. I think we all work to make a paycheck, to put food in my belly. I mean, so she's right. I am doing this to try to make some money, to try to make my kids' life and my life better than what it is right now. So she is correct. I'm doing this to make money. So, I could just as easy drive a heavier piece of equipment down that road, and then when you start harvesting, you're talking about an 18-wheeler that's got an 80,000-pound payload to pick corn up or to pick soybean up or to pick cows up. So, right now, except for the 30 feet that I cut Monday to try to get a gate through there to where I can actually pull up on our place without going across somebody else's. There's very little of the property that I bought that you can see the actual 19 acres without stopping and trying to look through trees or brush and stuff. And right now, I don't have any plan of doing that, because if I've got equipment there, I don't want somebody driving down that road and seeing it and stopping and seeing what they can tear up. Again, I want to be a good neighbor, but, this is not zoned residential. This is zoned agriculture. And I ought to be able to do agricultural duties. I mean, if you'd let me bring logs in there and cut them on my sawmill, I'd just say I'll give it away. And even if I did that, it's still cheaper than taking all the trees that are usable to the dump. So, I mean, and I've already told some folks, if you need lumber, bring it to me, bring me your list, and I'll cut it. It's still, for me, cheaper than paying $50 a ton to dump something that's usable. Appreciate y'all.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for allowing me to come back. I just want to know if I can address and ask Mr. Jenkins a question. Is that allowable?
Okay.
Mr. Jenkins, I know that you work with many of the heirs of those properties out there to actually purchase the property that you did. But did you ever give any thought to the other residents, talking with any of the other people on that road to see how they felt about the business you were planning out there? Or were you just concerned about, making sure that you go through all the right proper procedures to do the business that you want to do, and to make sure that you get the property purchased from all of these heirs? Because I don't remember anyone coming down to my house or sending me a letter to ask me if, this would be a good idea to bring this particular business out into this residential area, even though that particular parcel of the land is agriculture.
She's right. Right now, I've only owned this land for 1 week today. I did talk, when we were looking at the property, I talked to some ladies that were actually walking the road. Told them what I wanted to do, and I don't know if you were one of the ladies that was. Okay. I know that originally I may have gotten the cart before the horse with making plans before I actually owned it. But Monday, I made it a point to stop and talk to somebody because I saw the Boldens out in their front yard. Stopped, introduced myself, and told them what my plans were. I don't have anything to hide. If somebody has a question for me, they're free to ask it. And I hope I would be as calm as I am now. But, it's not like I'm trying to hide something. If I were trying to hide it, then I would put another row of trees up and bring the stuff in to where nobody could see it and not worry about it. But I approached Scott right at 4 months ago and told him what I was wanting to do. I've been to the Board of Supervisors meeting, told them what I wanted to do. I've been open with it, and I don't want to be like that goofball that's piled all those logs up there. I've been in Madison County 61 years. I've lived in Gluckstadt with a Canton address. I've lived in Madison. I grew up in Ridgeland. I want to see us successful. But I also know that we could be doing more. I mean, people throw their plastic stuff in a bin and put it out at the road. And it's like a feel-good because that stuff isn't getting recycled. It costs too much to recycle it. But if I've got something and I'm grinding it and I'm repurposing it, that's true recycling. Appreciate it.
All right. Any other opposition? I'll entertain a motion.
I do
You have a
have
question?
quick
Go ahead.
questions. The adjacent property owners across the street from that property, Teresa Garner has a house. Is that vacant or uninhabitable or what?
It looks like it ought to be uninhabitable. But Mr. Bolden told me that there was a single lady that lived in the house, said, she's in and out. I've yet to see a vehicle in the driveway. And I told Ricky Bolden, I said, I'd like to meet her. I want to know who my neighbors are, but, I don't live there yet. So I don't know everybody. I don't mind somebody stopping and telling me who they are or I don't have a problem with any of that.
Okay. Tammy Phillips lives just north of there?
That name sounds familiar.
That's the adjacent land.
That sounds right. That sounds familiar. And like I said, I stopped and talked to some ladies that they said they walk that road every day. But have I gotten out and knocked on doors? Sure hadn't done it. But I'm sure if Mr. Banks calls folks and tells them to come and talk against what I'm wanting to do, then I don't have any doubt that there's not more than just this lady that's wanting me to not do what I'm wanting to do. But I want to keep the property clean because I want to keep the property value up. What are they going to do when they put a frontage road through there? It's going to disrupt a whole lot more than what I'm wanting to do just on that property. But no, ma'am, I've not met very many of them. But like I said, in the last 4 months, I've been out there 3 times for maybe a total of 20 or 30 minutes.
I don't think Mr. Banks would call folk and tell them to speak against it, but I do believe that knowing something else is coming up and they have that pile of stuff down on the other end, I know that would concern those other people.
And with good reason, right.
Not wanting the same thing to happen and box them in. So
I agree.
It's a legitimate
it is a
reason
legitimate
for
concern. I agree.
Up and speak about
Sure.
the neighborhood,
Well, I mean, I might would want to do the same thing. I mean, I agree with that.
Any other questions, comments?
One comment, Mr.
Yes, sir.
President, and this goes, Mandy, to your earlier question, just a little bit deeper and a little bit clarification. As Scott mentioned, and as Mr. Jenkins actually mentioned, this is a conditional use. So obviously, you've got the options to approve it or deny it, or approve it with conditions, such as, like we do with a dirt pit, you know, operation during daylight hours. With a dirt pit, we do no Sunday hauling. You know, you can't use those on Sundays. We do it for a period of time. You know, you can do it, your conditional permit is good for a year or less or more. So just more responsive to your question earlier is, because it is a conditional use, obviously allows you to, if you be so inclined to approve, approve with certain conditions or restrictions.
Thank
So,
you.
I'll entertain a motion.
I move that his request for conditional use be denied because his operation does not come under the guidelines of a conditional use for an A1 district. From what he says, he is in a manufacturing operation where he takes raw material and he develops it through a process that will create noise, vibration, and odors, which puts him in an industrial position.
I didn't say anything about odor.
And through the use of machinery and labor, he is taking a raw material and creating a product. Therefore, what he's doing does not come under the definition of conditional use or the acceptable uses in this district. I think you'd be better off getting a rezoning, and I just don't think that this is a conditional use in this district. And therefore, I'm making the motion that it be denied.
Is there a second? No second?
I motion to approve it, but with conditions.
that's a substitute motion.
Okay.
What are you?
What are your conditions?
It was, I mean, it's like I mentioned before, and I understand what Gene's saying, because I felt that it was industrial as well, but if we moved forward, my conditions would be so that it is during daylight hours. There is no Sunday hauling, and I don't know what conditions we could put on the property as far, so that it doesn't become an eyesore such as the other situation. I mean, I don't know what our boundaries are there either, but that would be my motion.
So now we've got, said daylight hauling, but daylight use.
Daylight use, yeah.
Sunday hauling, you're saying no Sunday use, don't run your sawmill or be coming in and out with raw materials on Sundays, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Those are the only two. If there are others that you would like to add,
Those are the only two.
Andy, I'm at a cross myself because you build a building to house your machine, to use, to develop, as she said. How can you make it conditional use when it appears to be a permanent structure?
Yes, sir. I think at that point, as I understood Mr. Jenkins, that is a plan, but not before you today, but since he did mention it, I think it's worthy of a little bit of discussion.
So if we were to approve as is today, would he have to come back and
Yes.
petition us for that in the future?
Yes,
Okay.
that would be, Scott, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think that would be an accessory structure. Well, there's no structure on the house to accessorize to. So,
Well, it's agricultural property, so ag buildings are essentially exempt from everything.
so he could build a barn if he wanted to. Yeah,
Absolutely.
That's correct, because it is agriculture. It's not an accessory structure. There's no house that the barn is an accessory structure to, or a potential barn yet, any of those things.
You know, we're prohibited by law to restrict ag buildings and the like. We don't even inspect an ag building. We make sure it's meets setbacks. That's it, because the state law says we can't inspect them. Kind of crazy.
All right,
You've got a motion on the floor for daylight hour use and only, and no Sunday use.
We need a second?
to which one?
The substitute motion?
Yeah. I
There's
second.
been no second yet. Are you
I
seconding
second.
that? Okay.
Okay, it's been properly moved and second to the substitute motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Passed, no, it's,
Was it?
That is-
did you vote no, or did you vote
Yes,
yea?
sir. I voted nay.
Okay, so that went nowhere, 2-2.
So would that mean I would come back and ask again?
Yes, sir.
Because, you know, she put daylight hours, I'm all in favor of that. I'm all in favor if you want to say from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Can't hear you, Timothy.
Okay.
Sorry.
You know, if, you could make it stronger. I mean, if you wanted to say 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., or, you know, if you wanted to give me 4 hours a day to cut.
I think the main problem is that the opposition is that because of the structure, they feel that it would be more of an industrial.
Well, and I understand that, and by what Scott said, I can promise you, there's gonna be a barn on that property. I mean, you got 19 acres sitting on agricultural property. I've got agricultural equipment, and I want it out of the weather. This is my new son-in-law. I've got a 21-year-old daughter that has been married, 4 weeks today. She wants to homestead. If she's crazy enough to get up and milk a cow twice a day, I'm gonna say, go after it.
I just need to look.
The procedural position now is nothing, so, you can leave it there. Mr. Jenkins can resubmit. Scott, is there any time limitation on that?
Not on conditional use. It would just have to go back through the procedure of notice in the newspaper, sign on the property.
Okay, if that's the route you take, should you, it certainly sounds like it's been fully discussed here, and this is all just my opinion, this is just me talking. Maybe some further discussion should be had and some further thought. So were you so inclined to table that, you're welcome to do that, or you're welcome to leave it right where it is.
Yeah. I think that we ought to table it so we can have further discussion to look and see what the policy and procedures are.
Is that a motion?
Yes, sir.
I second your motion.
It's been motioned and properly second. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Was that everybody an aye on that one? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Can you explain to me what does that actually mean?
This will come back up at our next meeting.
Okay.
We're just moving it to our next meeting. Obviously, some further discussion and thought needs to be had amongst the commissioners. Perhaps there's some further discussion and thought, communication with you and maybe other neighbors. I don't know, that's up to you guys.
Hey, I'm all in favor of it.
Hey, it may be some answers you might want to get from the board or the county engineer on the road. I mean,
So it's basically
I'll be at the meeting Monday to
Okay.
address that.
wide open until our next commission meeting in August.
Okay,
August 8th,
thank you.
August 8th.
But just as a footnote, since it was mentioned by a commissioner, I really don't want to go down the road to have it put down as commercial property. Because I want to be able to have a cow out there for my kids or my grandkids. But if I have to go down the road to have it listed as commercial, they're going to be mad as a hornet at me. I'd rather keep it like it is and have a conditional use and have it conditionally used instead of a full-blown operation. I mean, that's been my thoughts from the get-go. That's on a big enough knoll that I could fix it to where nobody could see what I'm doing from the road unless they walked onto my property. There's two different tree lines, and I mean, I could fix it to where you couldn't see it.
You're fine. We just need more discussion.
Sure.
On it, you know.
Okay.
So
I
we'll
think-
make the right decision.
I think everybody understands that was just a comment and a thought and a reasoning for Ms. McCarty. Everybody understands.
Can I
that
give
you're not
y'all
doing that.
a business card, and if you got any question for me, or, she was saying. If y'all got a question for me.
Now, we have a planning and development guide, and that's where we need to look.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, motion to close, public hearing.
So move.
Second.
The motion and properly second, all in favor? Aye. Ayes have it, so it is. Site plan, Utah.
Good morning.
Morning.
All right, I'm Rob White, Senior Project Manager for Utah. This is Ben Eakes, our CFO. We are here to hopefully get our site plan approved so we can get going on our new office.
So your building's gonna face north, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Front of the building, right?
Yes, it'll face north. So the access road will come in off Old Jackson and follow the property line all the way down, and we'll face the north.
And your parking lot will all the way around, well, actually front and back of the building?
Yes, it'll be front and back, correct.
Majority of your parking in the back?
Yeah, I would say there,
We have more spaces in the back. to
Yeah, there's
accommodate
more
our Employees and allow district parking in front.
it's close to equal. There's a little bit more in the back, and we've got a little gravel, I guess, overflow if we were to have visitors or something, or had a meeting where we had people come in. But, like I said, our typical day is 15 to 20 vehicles at the most, so they'll be parked, adjacent to the building.
You know, prior, we approved your use, or was it rezoning?
Rezoning, yes, ma'am.
And but you need that buffer zone between that residential.
We've got 125 feet from the, so we're going to have a little yard back there, little shop yard like we discussed. You can see on the site plan. That's just for pickup trucks and small trailers. But we've got 125 feet from the back of that to the property line,
Back of the building, back of the lot.
from the back of the lot.
And, you know, we required ornamental trees, not ornamental, evergreen trees. If you, no, you're gonna put a fence, is that correct?
Yes, there'll be a fence, and then that, so we're actually 125 feet from the fence to the next property line. So there's a pretty good buffer right there. The tree line between us and the Thompsons is pretty thick, and then we're going to leave all that natural vegetation. So, and actually, the way our grading plan will work out is kind of where the Thompson is, kind of the top of a hill, so we're actually going to be cut down about 8 feet. So really, their line of sight between the trees, the vegetation, and then we're going to be actually kind of, I'd say, set down in a hole, so it's going to slope down. So we're going to be a lot lower than they are. So I really don't think, honestly, that we'll be able to see anything from without, you know, coming onto the property.
So, I've got,
Any other questions? Any opposition? I entertain a motion.
A motion to move forward.
second.
Motion and properly second to move forward. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. So it is.
Thank y'all very much. We appreciate it.
Have a good day.
Y'all too.
Make sure you come to the August
August
5th
Fifth.
board meeting.
Yes, sir. We'll be there. Thank y'all.
August 8th for the next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion to adjourn.
Yes, please.